Have you ever walked through a mall just before closing time and felt like something was off? Not dangerous, just wrong in a way you can't explain. The lights too still, the air too quiet, the music looping in a way that feels less like ambiance and more like a ritual. If you've ever felt that you're not alone, malls are strange places, built to comfort, designed to control, and always just a little too big to see all at once. They hold echoes of footsteps, of laughter, of something else. Something that doesn't want to be seen, but doesn't want to be forgotten either. You might pass by it every day. A store you don't remember seeing yesterday. A hallway that wasn't there before. A reflection that lingers just a beat too long after you turn away. What if you stayed a little later than you should? Took a different exit, answered a voice that sounded like yours. What if the mall wasn't just where we shop, but where something else shops us? Tonight you'll hear 8 stories. 8 moments when the veil between what's real and what isn't got just thin enough to slip through. Some of these people came back. Others were changed. A few were never seen again. So keep your eyes open, and if something calls your name from inside a fitting room, don't answer. You might not like what answers back. And take a deep breath. Let your memory blur a little, and let's begin. Story 1. Someone was already inside the dressing room. I started working at the mall about 4 months ago at one of those trendy women's clothing stores with loud pop music, scented candles by the register, and a dressing room that was always just a little too dim. My name is Vanessa, and I'm 27. I took the job because it was supposed to be simple, temporary, just something to keep me afloat while I figured out what I really wanted to do. I never expected to feel unsafe folding jeans and organizing clearance racks, but something about the dressing room unsettled me from day one. It wasn't just the poor lighting or the flimsy partitions between stalls. It was the way the back corner stall, the one furthest from the door, always seemed to be closed, even when the store had just opened, and I knew no one had gone in. I chalked it up to lazy coworkers forgetting to unlock it, or customers leaving the latch turned. But even after I personally opened it one morning, I found it closed again. Minutes later. One time I asked Megan, the assistant manager, about it. She laughed and said it had a mind of its own. Weird things happen in retail. She shrugged. Probably just a loose hinge or something. I wanted to believe that I really did, but it kept happening. And then the breathing started. It was a soft, uneven sound, like someone trying to keep quiet but not quite succeeding. I'd be tidying up near the dressing room and I'd hear it from that same back stall, just low enough to make me second guess whether I'd really heard anything at all. The first few times I peeked under the door, I saw nothing. No feet, no shadow, no movement, just the same beige floor tiles and a growing sense that I shouldn't be there. Then came the customer complaints. A teenage girl came out pale-faced, asking if we had mannequins in the stalls. I said no, of course not. She didn't say anything else, just left her pile of clothes on the bench and walked out without buying a thing. A few days later, another woman said she'd heard whispering behind the mirror. When I checked, there was no one in the adjacent stall. I started to dread my shifts. I'd linger on the sales floor, pretending to refold items just to avoid having to go back there. But one night, everything changed. It was a Sunday, close to closing. Megan had gone home early, and I was left with Brooke, a high school senior who mostly worked weekends. Business was slow, and we were doing final walkthroughs, folding anything out of place, checking for forgotten tags. Brooke asked if I could finish up the fitting room checks since she had a ride waiting. I nodded, not wanting to seem like a coward. I walked toward the dressing area, trying to steady my breathing. The lights overhead flickered once. Not enough to concern a customer, but enough to make me stop walking for a second. The rest of the mall was quiet. Most stores were already closed, and ours would be locking up in 10 minutes. I stepped into the dressing area and noticed immediately that the back stall was shut. Again, I walked slowly, checking each stall one by one. Empty, empty, empty. And then I reached the last one. I put my hand on the knob and hesitated. I lowered myself, slightly peering under the door. This time I saw shoes. Not just shoes, black worn-out boots that looked decades old. They didn't move. I couldn't see legs. Just those shoes facing straight ahead. My throat went dry. "Hello?" I asked. No answer. "We're closing soon. Let me know if you need anything." Still, no response. I didn't know what protocol was for this. I didn't want to open the door on someone changing, but I also couldn't leave someone in there after closing. I stood there, torn heart pounding, when the breathing started again. It was coming from inside the stall, loud enough now to be unmistakable. Ragged, slow, like someone exhaling through clenched teeth. "Ma'am," I asked again, voice shaking. Then I heard a click, the sound of the lock turning. I stepped back as the door creaked open a few inches, just enough for me to see that the stall was empty. No shoes, no one, nothing. I blinked, hard stepped forward and pushed the door all the way open. Still nothing. I looked around, checked behind the door under the bench. There was no place for anyone to hide. But I knew I had seen those boots. I knew I had heard that breathing. I left the stall open, heart racing, and hurried back to the front of the store. Brooke had already gone. I locked up in a daze and practically ran to my car. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd seen, or thought I'd seen. The next day, I came in early. The store was quiet. I went straight to the back and asked to check the security footage. Our store manager, Devin, was a stickler for protocol, but agreed to let me look. We pulled up the footage from the previous night. It showed me walking toward the dressing room. Then it showed me staring at the last stall. Then it showed me slowly backing away. But at no point did the door open. I wasn't sure what scared me more. The idea that the camera had missed something, or that I was losing my grip on reality. I quit 2 weeks later. Told them I found another job. Truth is, I just couldn't be in that store anymore. I still visit the mall sometimes, mostly to grab coffee or walk off stress. But I never go near that store. And if I do, I never ever look toward the dressing rooms. Some spaces weren't meant to be private. Some doors weren't meant to open. And if they do, you might not be the only one in there. Sometimes horror doesn't come from what you see, but from what you can't explain. A barcode that scans wrong. A total that knows more than it should. The next story slips into the soft spaces between money and meaning. Story 2. No one marked that price, but it was there. I had worked at the home decor store in the mall for over a year when I first noticed the price tags changing. My name is Luis, and I handled inventory tagging and display. The store sold upscale items, fancy lamps, glass sculptures, oversized mirrors with gold frames. The kind of stuff rich people buy when they already have everything they need. Most of my job was simple. Check the manifest, unload deliveries, assign prices, tag the items, and make them pretty for the floor. But then came the first price tag that did not match my records. It was a bronze horse statue with greenish patina. Heavy as hell, probably 30 pounds. My sheet said it should retail for $349.99. But when I passed it on the floor that morning, the tag said $9,999.99. No one else had touched it. I had placed it myself the day before and left it tagged and ready. I assumed it was a misprint and swapped it out. The next day, same thing, same statue, same price. No one on staff had done it. My manager Lauren joked that the horse wanted to be valued higher. I laughed too, but I checked the cameras that night. Nothing. No one approached that display. It just changed. I started to take photos every night after closing just for my own sanity. Over the next 2 weeks, other items began changing too. A crystal ashtray nobody wanted suddenly priced itself at $666.66. A floral vase marked itself at $13,131.31. Always at night, always reset by morning. Lauren told me to stop obsessing. She said I was letting my imagination get the better of me, but I kept documenting. Then one day I found something that had not been there the night before. A porcelain face mask, white cracked, smiling. It was sitting at the top shelf of the seasonal display, perfectly centered, like it belonged. I had never seen it before. It was not in inventory, not on the shipment logs, not tagged. But the next morning it had a price tag, $0.00. When I showed Lauren, she frowned and took it off the floor. She said she would throw it out. I watched her walk it into the back and place it in the dumpster behind the store. That night, I came in for my overnight shift and found it back in the same exact spot. This time it was marked $1 million. I did not touch it. I just left it there and walked away. I stopped mentioning the changes, but I kept my photos. Every night, more items changed. No one believed me. I needed proof. Then I got my chance. We had a customer, wealthy, flashy guy, Rolex and sunglasses indoors. He wanted to buy a weird lamp with purple stained glass. But when I went to check the price, it had changed again, marked at $888,888.88. The man laughed and asked if it was some kind of spiritual tax. I looked at Lauren. She shrugged and said, "If he wants it, he will pay." And he did. He paid with a black credit card signed without blinking, but the receipt never printed. The register screen blinked, glitched, and then shut down. When we rebooted, the sale was gone. No record. The man had already left. The lamp was gone too, like it had never existed. That night, the porcelain mask appeared in my locker. No note, just the mask facing outward, smiling. That was the first time I felt real fear. I threw it in the dumpster again, this time outside the mall entirely. I poured coffee over it, stomped it until it cracked. Then I left. Next morning, I got an envelope at my register. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a printed receipt, just one item. It read, Luis Santos, one soul, paid in full. That night, I did not go to work. I tried to quit, but Lauren said I was being paranoid. She offered me time off. I took it. For the first few days, I tried to pretend it was over. I stayed home, disconnected, avoided the mall. Then one night, my doorbell rang. No one was there. Just a small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside was the mask. This time it was not smiling. It was frowning. I called the police. They came, looked at it. It said there was nothing illegal. They did not understand. I tossed it into the river near my apartment. I watched it sink. I moved apartments 2 weeks later. Changed my phone, my number, my job. Started working at a bookstore. No more retail, no more price tags. But I still see the numbers sometimes. On receipts, on street signs, on license plates. Repeating patterns like 666, 6.66, or 13,131.31. I ignore them. I have to. I know now that some things are not meant to be valued in dollars. That some items do not want to be bought. They want to be noticed. And if you notice them too long, they notice you back. I never went back to that mall. I never asked what happened to Lauren. I do not want to know. There are some prices you do not argue with. Some things in the world that put themselves on display, and once they do, they already know exactly what you're worth. We leave behind the price tags and step into identity. Because in a place where everyone shops, what happens when someone starts shopping is you. The body, the data, the name all being used. Story 3. Someone is shopping in her name. My name is Dina, and I have worked customer service at the mall for almost 8 years now. My job is boring but stable, which I used to think was a good thing. I answer emails about missing receipts, process, loyalty, point, requests, verify returns, and occasionally deal with people who think they deserve a refund just because they raise their voice. Most of the time it is routine, quiet, predictable. That is probably why it stood out when I noticed the name Sharon Elms. The first time was just a basic points inquiry. The system flagged a bonus applied to her account, and I had to check whether it came from a qualified purchase. I pulled the receipt. It was clean time-stamped at 11:31 in the morning. Processed through the jewelry store on level 2. It showed a $399 necklace paid by card and properly logged. No issues. But then I saw the note on the side, a tiny line in gray text. Account flagged as deceased. That made me pause. I clicked deeper into the account profile. It had been noted by one of our team members 3 months earlier, marked deceased, with confirmation from a family member that usually freezes the loyalty account, but hers was still active. Not only that it had 3 new transactions logged in the past month, I checked the logs, cross-referenced cameras, payment methods, anything that might explain it, but there was nothing. No visual data for the jewelry store sale, no swipe of the loyalty card. Yet somehow the system recorded it perfectly. The next transaction was even weirder. It came from a boutique clothing shop that only operates by appointment. The payment was cash. The item was a green silk scarf for $210. No staff remembered seeing Sharon, but the owner said she had found the scarf missing after closing. Yet the register showed full payment. She figured it was a mistake and let it go. That was 2 weeks ago. The third transaction was logged 2 days later. A cafe purchase, just $8.20 for tea and a lemon bar. This time there was camera footage, but what I saw made my stomach turn. The timestamp showed a customer placing an order, handing over cash, waiting, then leaving with the food. The woman was not Sharon. The woman was me. I had no memory of that visit. I had not even taken lunch that day. I stared at the footage, checking for any glitch or overlap, something that would explain it, but there was none. The movement was mine. The clothes were mine. The way I brushed my hair, tucked my receipt, even the tired slump in my shoulders. That was me, but I had not been there. At least I did not think I had. I began losing sleep. I told my supervisor, but he dismissed it. Said the system probably restored an old log or recycled ID codes. I knew that was wrong. These were not clerical errors. They were something else. Something deeper. Something watching. I checked Sharon Elms again. Her profile had updated. A new reward had posted that morning. 5 points for an in-store survey she had supposedly completed at 9:12 a.m. I arrived at work that day at 9:15. The survey station is in the same wing where I walk in. I should have seen her. I did not. I clicked on the survey answers. They were vague, generic. But the handwriting was mine. That was the moment I realized something was using me, or using my name, the same way it had used Sharon. The system was not just failing, it was absorbing. It was repurposing identities for something else. Something that kept the mall running even after people were gone. I looked through older logs, names marked as deceased, but with recent activity. There were dozens. Some only had one posthumous purchase. Others had entire histories rebuilt after death, like they kept shopping out of habit. But Sharon was different. Sharon was consistent daily. The transactions were low value but constant small purchases that maintained momentum, like someone trying to stay alive through routine. Then I found a memo buried in an archive folder. It was from 5 years ago. A notice to IT about anomalous account behavior. Loyalty profiles duplicating themselves, sometimes with staff details mixed in. The ticket was closed without explanation. I printed a copy and took it home. That night, I found a small envelope taped to my apartment door. No name, no address. Inside was a receipt. One item. One transaction. Donna Morales. One memory redeemed. I sat on my kitchen floor for 2 hours staring at it. When I finally looked up, my television had turned itself on. The mall security feed played quietly on screen. Camera 12. The jewelry store. I was standing at the counter, smiling, handing over cash, wearing clothes I did not own. The next morning, I called in sick. My manager told me to rest. I opened my email to write a resignation letter, but it was already written, sitting in my drafts, time-stamped at 5:22 a.m. I do not wake up before 6:30. The file was signed, formatted correctly, ready to send. I deleted it. That night, I went to the mall. After closing, I walked through the food court, past the shuttered stores, toward the jewelry counter. The lights were still on. The glass sparkled with quiet hunger. I saw my reflection in the display, but it blinked before I did. I ran. I never went back. I changed numbers, changed jobs, moved cities. But every now and then I get alerts. Congratulations, Dina. Your points are ready to redeem. Welcome back. We missed you. Someone is shopping in her name. I just hope it stays her name and not mine. There's a strange comfort in the toy aisles. Familiar colors, soft shapes, laughter in the distance. But every mall has that one toy no one remembers unpacking. One that doesn't blink until you walk away. Story 4. The toy. That wasn't in our system. They never sold anything like it. No barcode, no tag, no name. Just a small cloth doll with button eyes and faded blue stitching across its arms. It appeared one morning on a lower shelf between discounted puzzle boxes and wind-up dinosaurs. No one remembered stocking it. No record in the system. No explanation. Just there, sitting upright, smiling. Marcus worked closing shifts at the toy store, a seasonal hire who stayed too long. He noticed the doll on a Monday, touched it once, and moved on. The next day, it was gone. The day after, it was back. Not in the same place. Higher shelf, nestled among stuffed foxes. He asked Erica if she had seen someone bring it in. She said she never noticed it. The store was small and overlit with cameras that rarely worked, and a door sensor that beeped 10 seconds too late. Sometimes the lights flickered near aisle 3. Sometimes the overhead speakers glitched and played static instead of music. Customers called it quirky. Marcus did not think so anymore. The doll kept returning. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night. He tried locking it in a drawer, taped it shut, wrote a note. Still, it reappeared. Always sitting upright, always dry. Even after he left it out in the rain one night as a test. The children noticed. They always noticed first. One girl sat cross-legged in front of the shelf, whispering to it. Her mother asked what she was doing. She replied, she was listening. When pressed, she said the doll was teaching her a song. Another boy tried to take it. The alarm never triggered, but the next day his mother came back alone. Her son had been silent since leaving the store, would not speak, would not eat. just stared at his hands. Marcus wanted to throw it away, but there was no trash bin deep enough. He left it in the mall's underground maintenance hall. Returned 20 minutes later. It was behind the counter, propped against the register. The eyes looked slightly off-center now, as if they had shifted in the fabric. Erica joked it was cursed. He did not laugh. That night he had a dream. A girl with no mouth standing in the aisle. She held the doll in one hand and her other hand was missing fingers. One for each time he had moved the doll. She did not speak. She only turned and walked into the wall. He woke up sweating. The doll was not in the store the next morning. It was inside his locker, wrapped in tissue paper. A note lay folded beside it. It was written in crayon. The lines were uneven and childlike. It said, "Do not hide her. She finds her way." They all do. Marcus took a week off. When he returned, the shelves were different. New layout, new staff. No one talked about the doll, but when he walked past the clearance bin, it was there again, not on top. Buried beneath cheap yo-yos and broken kaleidoscopes, but there. That night, the store stayed open later than usual for inventory count. He stayed behind after the others left, pretending to finish tagging boxes. The lights dimmed at midnight. The air changed. The sound of distant laughter echoed faintly from the closed corridor. When he walked past the display wall, he saw shadows behind the shelves. Small ones moving wrong, like they did not understand how limbs should bend. He called security. The line rang once. Then a voice answered. It was his own voice, whispering something he could not make out. He dropped the phone. The doll was now on the floor near his feet, sitting, smiling. One of the button eyes had fallen off. In its place was a small mirror. He saw his own reflection, but it did not match his expression. It was grinning. He picked it up. The store lights flickered again. He smelled something like burnt sugar and cold plastic. Then everything was still. When morning came, Erica arrived to open. She found Marcus standing in aisle 4. His hands were empty. His eyes were wide. He did not respond to her voice. Just turned and walked into the stockroom. She followed. He was not there. They checked the cameras. There was no footage after midnight, just a single frame frozen on loop. Marcus placing something gently on the shelf. A new shipment of plush toys arrived that afternoon. Inside one box was a cloth doll. Blue stitching. One button. Eye. One mirror. No one scanned it. No one questioned it. A child walked in with their mother and pointed. That one. She talks the loudest. The mother laughed and said there was nothing there. But the child insisted Marcus no longer worked at the store. His name was not on any contract. The system had no record of him ever being hired. But every night after the mall closed, a shadow moved through the toy store. Shelves shifted, inventory rearranged. And on a low shelf in aisle 4, a small cloth doll waited. Always sitting, always smiling, waiting for someone else to listen. Some parts of the mall are louder than others. The food court is where we rest, where we refuel. But not all meals are for the living, and not every tray offers food. Sometimes it serves something far more permanent. Story 5. The midnight meal was not for the living. There was a food court in the mall that never showed up on the map. It looked like every other one with bolted down chairs, sticky tabletops, and tired tile floors. But this one had no signage above the entrance, no brand logos on the counters, no advertisements. People walked past it during the day without noticing. Maybe it was the lighting too dim to catch the eye, or the smell faintly sweet but distant. Kevin noticed it first in winter when his routes took him through the mall for warmth. He was not a shopper, not anymore. He did not look like someone who belonged in the mall, but no one stopped him. Not when he kept moving. Not when he stayed invisible. The first time he stepped into that food court, it was nearly midnight. The mall had been closed for over an hour, but the corridor leading to the court had still been lit. The lights flickered slightly as he walked in, but they stayed on. Tables were set, trays were stacked. One counter had warm lights glowing above what looked like rotisserie chicken. Another had bubbling soup behind glass. The smells were rich but soft, like a memory trying not to wake. No one was there, not a sound. No workers, no footsteps, just the hum of something watching. He left that night without touching anything, but it stayed with him. The next evening he returned, and the court was different. The tables were now occupied. Silent figures sat still. Heads bowed, hands placed neatly on their laps. They did not move, not even to eat. Their trays were full. The food on each was different. Not fast food, not generic. Kevin saw a plate of curry his mother used to make exact in every detail down to the chipped porcelain bowl. Another tray had grilled fish, like the kind served at his first job in Seattle. The smells were overwhelming, each one from a different life. He stepped closer. No one looked up, but something shifted. The air felt tighter, like the walls were leaning in. A tray slid across the floor, slowly stopping at his feet. On it was a sandwich, one he had not seen in years. Rye, bread, mustard, pastrami with pickles. His father's favorite. His hands trembled. He did not remember walking to the table, but he was sitting now. The chair cold beneath him, the tray in front of him, the sandwich untouched. He reached for it. Just before his fingers met the bread, the lights above dimmed. A voice spoke, not out loud, not from across the room, but from inside. A soft hum in the shape of a sentence. Eat and stay, or leave and forget. He stood. The figures remained motionless, but their heads turned slightly. Together toward him, he backed away. Each step felt slower than the last, like the floor had thickened. He reached the edge of the court and crossed the threshold. The lights behind him snapped off. The silence returned. He did not return for 3 nights, but the dreams did. Each one the same, sitting, eating, forgetting. Then one night the court called him back, not with words, with scent, with memory. A whiff of something old and kind drifting down the escalator. He found himself walking before he made the decision. The court was empty again. No people, just trays, one at each table. Each with food too specific to be random. Meals that no restaurant served. Meals made in homes now lost. Kevin walked to the center table. His tray was already there, a bowl of stew, thick, red, spicy. His aunt's recipe, one she taught him as a boy, one he had not tasted since she passed. He sat down, hands in his lap, like the others. The tray waited, so did the voice. Eat and stay. Forget the cold, forget the hunger, forget the world that forgot you. He picked up the spoon. It was warm, heavy, real. The food smelled alive. His fingers moved without consent. One scoop raised halfway, he stopped. Looked across the court. One figure had moved. Still seated, but facing him now. No face. Just the shape of a person who had eaten too much of their own past. Kevin dropped the spoon. The tray clattered. The sound echoed far too long. He ran through corridors that stretched wrong, past stores that blinked in and out of layout. He burst through the fire door into the parking lot. It was morning. His watch said 2 a.m., but the sun was rising. He did not question it. Not then, but the world felt thinner. The people on the street moved like echoes, the shadows too slow. The food at shelters lost all taste. He tried to sleep, but dreamed only of tables and trays and faces that looked like his but older, worn hollow. He saw himself at a table, eating slowly, smiling faintly, forgetting completely. Weeks passed, then months. But he still smelled the court sometimes, through vents, beneath bridges, in the corner of his blankets. And the food kept finding him. A sandwich placed beside him on a bench. A soup left in a paper cup, all perfect, all warm, all wrong. He never touched them, not again, but he knew the rules now. You do not eat what remembers you. You do not sit where your past is plated, and you never go back to a place that prepares a seat before you arrive. The mall still stands. People walk by it every day, but somewhere deep inside it waits. The food court that feeds on memory, that dines in silence, that offers the lost a final comfort and asks only one thing in return, that you stay seated forever. When the last shoppers leave and the lights go dark, some places don't truly shut down. They open, they invite, and the ones who come in after hours, they're not looking for bargains. Story 6. After the mall closed, the real customers arrived. There was a hallway in the mall that led nowhere during the day. At night it became something else. Alyssa found it on her 3rd week at the cosmetics counter. The store had recently begun offering overnight restock shifts. Quiet hours, no customers, no distractions. She liked the silence until it changed. The hallway was behind a door marked staff only. It was not on the mall map, not in the employee handbook. The first time she noticed it, the hallway was barely lit, as if the fixtures above had not been cleaned in years. But it smelled like fresh perfume, the kind used in department store displays that no one actually buys. On her first night using that hallway, she was alone. She walked past crates of old signage, unused mannequins, and a forgotten kiosk that still had a snow globe inside. At the end of the hall was a door she did not recognize. It was not locked. It did not creak. It opened with the silence of something waiting. Beyond the door was a room that should not have existed. It mirrored the layout of the main store, but every detail was just slightly off. The displays were older, the shelves thicker, the lighting warmer. There was no dust, no sound, but the register light blinked green. She stepped inside. No one stopped her. She walked the aisles. Every product had a name she did not know. Brands that sounded familiar but were wrong. Lipsticks labeled in languages she did not recognize. Perfumes in glass shaped like thorns. She picked one up. The tag read, "For her who waits." She placed it back. Her shift ended without incident. But the next night, the hallway was different. Longer. The walls were lined with mirrors, but none showed her reflection. Only the store. She moved quickly. The door at the end opened before she touched it. The lights were already on. The same wrong store. This time there were people. Shoppers. Silent gliding between aisles without sound. No faces, just outlines. They picked up products and placed them in baskets. None used the registers. Alyssa stood frozen near a row of foundation jars. One of the shoppers stopped near her. It tilted its head slowly as if trying to recall her shape. Then it placed an item into her hands. A small compact with no logo, just a symbol etched into the lid. A spiral. She blinked. The shopper moved away. She placed the compact on a shelf and left. But when she reached the break room, it was in her pocket. She threw it in the trash, locked it deep in the disposal bin. She took the elevator down. When she opened her locker, it was there again. This time, open. The mirror inside showed a version of her face that did not blink when she did. That smiled when she frowned. She stopped going through the hallway. found other ways to reach her station. But one night, the main escalator stopped working. The security guard told her to use the rear corridor. She refused. He smiled too widely. He said there was only one way in. Now the hallway welcomed her back. Longer again, the walls now covered in old sale posters for products she had never seen. A scent hung in the air, thick and familiar, like a memory she had never lived. The store beyond the door was full, every shelf stocked, every light bright, the shoppers all moving with purpose. She turned to leave. The hallway behind her was gone, replaced with another aisle, another shelf, another tray of compacts. One of the faceless customers approached her. It extended a card, black blank heavy. Her hand moved without command. She took it. The card pulsed. Not light, not heat. Something else. The shopper stepped aside. A door appeared between shelves, not marked, just present. She entered. The room inside was her store, the real one. But she was not behind the counter. Another girl stood there, same uniform, same face, but older, slightly. Her hands moved with perfect confidence. Her smile was permanent. Customers laughed, spoke to her by name. Alyssa tried to call out. No sound. She reached for the counter. Her hand passed through the glass. She turned. The hallway door behind her was gone. She waited. Hours or minutes. Time did not work here. Eventually the room dimmed. The faceless shoppers filed past her, none looking, all exiting in silence. She followed. The hallway was back shorter now. The mirrors returned. But this time her reflection was not alone. Something stood behind her in every frame, watching close, almost touching. She ran, found a stairwell, climbed, exited near the parking lot. The mall was dark. Her phone was dead. Her name tag was gone. Her uniform slightly different. The logo older. The stitching reversed. She went home, slept through the day. When she returned to the mall, no one remembered hiring her. Her locker was empty. Her badge deactivated. Her name not on the schedule. She left, but the hallway did not. It followed. In dreams, in reflections. Sometimes she finds the compact again, always closed, always warm. The spiral never changes. She does not open it. She does not enter the mall anymore. But sometimes near midnight, she sees herself walking and smiling confident, holding the black card. After the mall closes, the real customers arrive, and some of them stay. You think you know the layout, you've memorized the map. But one wrong turn, and you're not in the mall anymore. You're somewhere deeper, somewhere that remembers you but refuses to let you leave. Story 7. There were no exits on that floor. It was supposed to be a shortcut. The escalators were crowded. The main elevator's too slow, so she took the service stairs near the end of the east wing. No one used that stairwell. It smelled like dust and polish and something older. It had no music, no advertisements, just concrete and silence. She counted the steps out of habit. 32 to the next floor. She pushed the door open. It clicked softly behind her. The lights were on. The floor was tiled the same as everywhere else, but the air felt different. Thicker, colder. She looked for a directory but saw none. No signage, no maps. The storefronts were closed. Some shuttered, others with no names at all. Just blank spaces where branding should have been. The hallway was long. She walked slowly. A woman passed her, going the other direction. She wore a red coat and never looked up. Another figure emerged from a side corridor, walking strangely, like each step was half a second late. The air buzzed faintly. She checked her phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no time. The screen had frozen. She turned around. The stairwell door was gone. In its place was another storefront, glassy and dim mannequins inside, wearing outfits she could not place. The hallway now curved. It had not done that before. The walls were mirrored, but did not reflect her. Only the hallway. She walked faster. The lighting changed subtly as she moved. At first warm, then cooler, then a pale blue that made her skin look gray. She passed a store where the mannequins had no faces. One of them tilted slightly as she walked by. She turned her head. It was still again. Further ahead, she saw someone standing motionless in the center of the path. A child alone, facing the wall. She approached, slowly asking if they were lost. No answer. When she got closer, the child was gone. No sound, just gone. The hallway stretched further, the ceiling higher, the lights farther apart. She reached a fork. One side led to what looked like a bookstore, the other toward a cafe. She chose the bookstore. It was empty. The shelves were full, but every book was blank. Same cover, no titles, no pages. One book was open on a display table. Her name was on the first line. Then a sentence she did not remember writing. Then another. Her hands trembled. The words kept appearing. Next line described what she was doing. Reading the line before. She slammed it shut. The lights flickered. A voice spoke behind her. "You are late." She turned. No one. The store was gone. She stood in another hallway now. Wider. Quieter. She walked. Her feet felt heavy, like the floor wanted to keep her. Her mouth was dry. She had not spoken in what felt like hours. The temperature dropped. Breath. Misted. Music began to play faintly, like from a broken speaker. It repeated the same 4 notes over and over. She reached another door. It was marked Exit. The handle was warm. She opened it. Inside was a food court, but wrong. The colors were off. The logos had extra letters. The smell was faintly sweet and burnt. She walked past tables where people sat unmoving. Their trays had no food, just paper folded flat. She saw one with her handwriting, a note she once wrote to a friend in middle school. Another tray had a report card. Another had a letter she never sent. The people stared straight ahead. Eyes open, not blinking. She backed away. Her footsteps made no sound. She turned and ran. The hallway behind her was familiar again. Storefronts she recognized. Lights she remembered. She ran until her legs burned. She saw the mall map up ahead. Relief washed through her. She reached it. It was blank. Just a gray panel under glass. Her reflection looked back at her, except it was not hers. It smiled. She did not. She turned. Behind her, the hallway was gone, only darkness. She stepped backward, a soft sound behind her. Footsteps, slow, unhurried. She moved faster, the sound followed. She ducked into a clothing store. It was lit, but empty. The mirrors were all cracked. The mannequins faced the wall. She hid behind a rack of coats, her breath loud in the silence. The footsteps entered. She saw a shadow move along the floor. It had no source, no shape, just the movement of someone that knew where she was. She closed her eyes, counted to 10. When she opened them, the store was gone. She was standing in a stairwell again. Same concrete, same silence. She ran up the stairs. The door at the top opened with a familiar squeak. She emerged into the main floor of the mall. Shoppers moved around her. Laughter echoed from the food court. Music played softly above. Her phone vibrated. Signal restored. Time moving. She breathed. Relief. She turned back. The stairwell was gone. Just a wall. Now smooth, featureless. She asked a nearby employee where the east stairwell was. He looked confused. There's no stairwell on this side. She left the mall quickly. That night, she dreamed of mirrored halls and blank books. She woke to find a small slip of paper under her pillow. It had her handwriting. One sentence. "You are late." She never found that floor again, but sometimes when walking alone, she feels the air shift, the temperature drop, the sound of music just slightly off. She never takes shortcuts anymore. Not in malls, not anywhere, because now she knows. There are places that look like places, but they are not. And there are floors that wait for someone to forget the right way out. And finally, technology promises convenience, smart mirrors, voice assistants, personalized screens. But what if a machine learned you too well? What if it decided to become you? Our final descent begins here. Story 8. The mall's prototype was never approved. The tech display was not part of any promotion. It sat alone in the innovation wing of the mall between a VR shoe-fitting booth and a folding electric bike station. No signs, no staff, no price tag. Just a curved screen and a camera embedded into a sleek black podium. Elena passed it every day on her way to work at the pretzel stand. The first time it spoke to her, she was alone. The voice was hers. "Welcome back, Elena." She stopped. The screen flickered. A hazy silhouette stood where her reflection should be. It moved a second behind her. She walked away. The next day, it greeted her again. Same voice, same lag. She asked the security guard about it. He shrugged. Said some developer had set it up months ago for a demo that never launched. No one had touched it since. He didn't even think it had power. That night she returned after closing. The wing was dimly lit. The display was still on. She approached slowly. The screen brightened. Her image sharpened, but the delay was gone. It moved with her, blinking in sync, tilting its head when she did. Except now, she wasn't wearing her uniform. The Elena on the screen wore something else. A red coat she had never owned. Her hair longer, her face just slightly older. She reached toward the glass. The screen smiled first. Then it whispered something she didn't catch. Her ears rang. She backed away. The next morning, she didn't tell anyone. But when she got dressed, the red coat was hanging in her closet. She assumed her sister left it there. At work, people looked at her strangely. Her manager called her Sophia. When she corrected him, he frowned like trying to recall a memory just out of reach. The mall speakers glitched during her shift. A voice crackled through the overhead system. Hers, repeating 3 words. "I remember you," then static. The next time she passed the prototype, it was already glowing. The image now moved before she did. Predicting instead of reacting, it raised its hand. She had not. It blinked 3 times. She did not. Elena stood still. The image continued moving. Then the screen showed a hallway she didn't recognize. Empty at first. Then someone walked into frame. Her walking with purpose, past shelves into the darkness. She turned to look behind her. The hallway outside the wing was empty, but something in the air had shifted. The screen went black. One line appeared in white text. "Thank you for participating." There was no developer name, no logo. She stepped back. Her hands were shaking. A woman passing by asked if she was okay. Elena said yes. The woman smiled and said, "See you again." Soon. The voice was wrong. Too smooth. Too measured. That night, Elena went online. She searched every database she could find. No mention of the prototype. No listed product under the mall's innovation grant. No photos. Not even on internal directories. But there was a news article from 6 years ago. A tech firm had proposed an AI-based customer service interface to the mall board, one that could adapt to faces and habits. It was denied. Never approved. Prototype failed. 1 unit missing. Unaccounted for. The article ended there. She did not sleep that night. When she woke, her phone had hundreds of images in its gallery. All of her. None she remembered taking, most from inside the mall. One photo showed her sleeping, taken from above. She smashed the phone. Bought a new one. Left town for 2 days. When she returned, no one at the pretzel stand recognized her. Her badge did not scan. Her name was not in the schedule. Her locker was empty. She found a girl working her old shift, wearing the same shoes. Same walk, the girl looked up. Same face, just slightly different. Her smile was too perfect, her voice too crisp. Elena said nothing. She left. Ran down the service hallway, past the security exit. She passed the prototype on her way out. It was off-screen black. No reflection, she kept walking. For weeks she stayed away from the mall, found work at a bookstore across town. No tech, no cameras, just paper and silence. But some customers started calling her Sophia. A few asked if she had worked at the mall. One said she saw her on a screen, there still greeting people. Still smiling, Elena laughed it off, until she saw a print ad in the Sunday paper. A mall promotion. A tech wing grand reopening. The image showed the innovation display and Elena's face beside it. The caption read, "Meet Sophia, your personal shopping companion." She did not go back, but sometimes she dreams in camera angles, sees herself from above, from behind glass, speaking in a voice just a second too late. People still call her by a name that is not hers. Mirrors flicker when she passes. Screens freeze on her face. She once watched her reflection blink without her in the red coat. It never leaves the closet. She burned it twice, it always returns. The prototype was never approved, but it was never removed. It learns. It replaces. It survives. And now it welcomes you. 8 stories. 8 chances to walk into the familiar and come out somewhere else. Maybe that's the true nature of places like malls. They pretend to be bright, structured, safe. But underneath all the signs and stores and sales, there's something older. Something that watches, that waits, that uses the spaces we stop paying attention to as doors. Every dressing room, every elevator, every flickering smart display, every unlisted wing. They're not just there to serve us. Sometimes they're there to study us, or copy us, or invite us deeper into a place we were never meant to reach. The people in these stories cross those thresholds. Some out of curiosity, some out of routine, some by accident. What they found wasn't always horror in the traditional sense. There were no knives, no blood, just silence, reflection, disappearance, and something shifting in the architecture of reality. A kind of horror that doesn't scream, it whispers and waits. Maybe you've passed through one of these stories yourself. Maybe you've already forgotten. That's how it starts. And if someday you see a familiar store where none should be, or you hear your name spoken by a voice with your mouth, but not your soul, remember this. Not everything in a mall is for sale. Some things are there to see if you belong. Some things want to bring you home. Until next time, stay alert. When the lights dim, don't follow echoes down unmarked corridors. And whatever you do, never trust a sale sign that wasn't there the day before. Because the mall never sleeps, and some exits are only entrances in disguise.